Okay.
Tackling the inspection of dark, harsh, and sensitive environments is the specialty of Square Robot, a startup based out of Boston, Massachusetts. Using advanced submersible robotics lowered into a petroleum storage tank, they autonomously inspect these environments for defects in the storage vessel using state-of-the-art sensing technology. By being able to use robotics for this task, they have reduced costs for their customers while improving accuracy. Their design is focused on safety and reliability for these unique environments, providing maximum uptime and allowing inspections to take place when and where humans would have to otherwise wait for the tanks to be empty. Founded in 2016, Square Robot chose Solidworks and EDrawings as their go-to design and management solutions. It was critical for them from the start to have the ability to work from anywhere combined with best-in-class design tools.
Okay. Hopefully everyone's a little jazzed up. Welcome to the What's New SolidWorks 2021 presentation with Rob Stocklosa. I'm your technical solutions consultant that will take you through this little venture today. I'm with TPM out of Raleigh, North Carolina. So many of you on the call I'm sure I've interacted with, and for those of you that I haven't, I'm Rob. Greetings. So we have a lot to cover. As you saw with Warren's packed presentation, we get an hour slot and we do have quite a bit. So I'm going to keep things rolling pretty fast here today so that we can cover everything that is required. Give you a few really high-level overview of what we're going to discuss. SolidWorks 2021 has three main core areas that we'll look into. The first being expanded functionality. The second, performance, and then we'll get into a little bit of all these tidbits I show you. We'll get to them in action. We'll follow up later today with some of the cloud-based information you see at the bottom. Of course, we want to get this in front of you guys as much as possible. It is the future, so
hey,
just
Rob, make sure your screen is playing.
What?
Make sure your screen is playing. We only see the robot on your screen.
Oh, really? How about now?
There we go, guys.
Sorry about that. You should have seen what I was seeing. It was really cool. You really didn't miss anything. So expanded functionality, performance, SolidWorks 2021 in action, and then like I said, we'll follow up with some cloud-based information later this afternoon. So again, just keeping things in front of you, we're going to sit here in the SolidWorks where we're comfortable and what we've known for quite a bit of time, but understanding our full solution, I think, is rather important, especially with where we're going. So again, just want to get this in front of you guys. If you have not looked into any of this information with 3DX and some of these other offerings, you owe it to yourselves, if you're not retiring next year, to start getting involved in this. So please do yourself a favor, listen to our presentations, but when we're done, go ahead and go get yourself some 3D experience time so you can start learning what's going on. All right, let's focus in on the first option here. We're going to talk about expanded functionality. So assembly modeling delighters. We like this word delighters. These are really just kind of neat things that have been added. Not everyone has a use for this, but I will tell you a lot of the things we're going to see really can change the way you approach your design or your design cycle, actually. So in this case, we're talking about, Excel interference reports, or exporting our interference reports to Excel. We also have auto-resolve lightweight components I'll show you, and some curve information for getting into chains and patterns. A lot of this information is just simply going to speed up, the work that we're doing. When we get into large assemblies, which is just, it's not going away, right, everyone? Large assemblies is probably here to stay, and it's only going to get more intense. So we have some options that we're going to show you to defeature these models to simplify the information that we see on our screen. This is a huge issue today, so I imagine many of you will find some benefit to some of these tool sets that we've added in. When we get into or talk about some sheet metal information, of course, can't forget the sheet metal people. It's a more flexible design. We have some really neat edge flange options that we have, you know, a lot of these things you probably could have created previous to 2021, but it would take you 2 or 3 or 4 functions and some real, you know, challenging brain time. So now we have some information like you see this edge flange here. We're going to be able to just select some faces, some edges, and really create some bends to these sheet metal components that we hadn't really been able to perform this quickly in the past. As always, we have to keep you guys happy, right? It's not just about what we're manufacturing and how fast can we get to a drawing. We're using this every day. We use this for, you know, 6-8 hours every day of our life. So Solidworks development is well aware of that. So again, they've added in some user interface things that just help us, you know, mitigate through our model a little quicker. And then what we're going to discuss here is how to get some coloring and whatnot applied to your part. That's always important, and it's more important now than ever. We get 3D printed parts that have textures associated to it, so we really got to kind of tighten up our game, guys, on the aesthetic value of our models as much as the modeling itself. And one of my favorite things that have been added this year is an improved mesher. You know, we talk about meshing when we talk about simulation. Robbie Hoyler is going to take you through this a little bit more in depth. For those of you that are doing simulation, I think you're going to find it to be an awesome benefit, and I'm really looking forward to having this capability. But Robbie will fill you in a little more on that. So that's going to be kind of our overview on the functionality. The next thing here is going to be performance. Performance, you know, it kind of ties into that those large assemblies that I mentioned earlier, but we can't forget our drawings, right? These detailed drawings, again, they're not getting more simpler or easier, you know, less information. They're getting more complex. So we have some options here to get us into these drawings a little quicker, get us working a little quicker, you know, while this is kind of calculating in the background, if you will. So we'll discuss some of that. We have some options here that enable us just the simple things, zooming, panning, right? These are things that we do a gazillion times an hour. But a lot of us, when you start getting into these higher level assemblies with all this geometry on the screen, you know, things can start to kind of hiccup a little bit. And although we deal with it, it is frustrating. So we have some options to show you that just make this a little bit more smoother. Everything's just a little bit easier to you know, use on an hourly basis. When we get into our graphics, which is always a topic of conversation at every new release, our graphics, you know, again, things aren't getting simpler. We're getting into more of assembly manuals and instruction manuals. Our processes have changed. Our 3D models are utilized different, and we need this level of graphical representation. So, you know, we've always wanted it, and we could get it, but again, we might be dealing with some slow rendering times, or, you know, you might not want to rotate that model because you know it's going to take a while. So we got to get away from that. We got to be able to do our job. In this case, we've added in some tools that just help us calculate some of that geometry a little bit quicker and get you into those assembly and instruction manuals, you know, that we're really trying to capture. In assembly performance, we're going to talk about lightweight mode and how we've kind of increased functionality within that. There is some really neat things you can do with that, along with coupling that with a defeatured model or a silhouette model. So I'll talk about these, but we're kind of taking several tools, combining them together as we usually do, right? It's not just one tool that gets the job done. But we're just going to combine a few tools to get us what we need. And how can we talk about any of this without discussing how it interacts with PDM? So again, Mike DeConing, he's going to have a follow-up presentation a little bit later today. He'll get into the weeds on this, but 2021, I am seeing that I can check in and out files quicker in 2021, guys. So I don't know what more to tell you. Mike will have the like I say, the details, but I know it's faster, and it's working faster. So that's a good thing because we utilize that quite a bit. Give you an overview of where we focused our time on this release. You can see quality and performance took a big chunk. I would just want to point out to you that when you look at these, understand we're not leaving SolidWorks behind. Although 3D experience is a chunk of our pie, it's not the largest chunk, right? There's still a lot of focus on where we're at today. So make no mistake, no one's getting left behind. SolidWorks is here. We're going to support this tool. And, but we just, like, again, we got to, just like when we made our switch from 2D to 3D or from the drawing board to CAD, we have to do this in steps, and we got to get this in front of you guys. Some of the things that they addressed were some of these SPRs. I'm sure many of you on the phone have published one or two of these in your days. But SPRs are things that we find kind of like bugs in the program that need to be addressed, right? No one's perfect, and SolidWorks requires us to kind of identify some of this, but they address it, right? So, and they're not only addressing these really simple things, they're getting into some of the really complex, harder, items that take a little bit more development time. So it's not just, changing a color on something. These are pretty intense issues that we receive from you guys, and SolidWorks development is addressing it. Okay. So now we're going to pop into SolidWorks 2021 in action and give you a little bit of a rundown actually on what this all looks like. So like I say, those are the features to look for. And now we'll get you into the software so you actually know where these picks and clicks take place. So the first demonstration, we're going to go through the quick access toolbar. We have a new method to just kind of customize your interface. We have a collapsible command manager to look for. When you're customizing your interface, we have an option now to search for this information, which is very helpful because we have a very feature-rich application, so finding things can be somewhat difficult. So searching is a great option. We have some improvements to color, as I mentioned earlier. It's important, so we have to be able to apply these colors and textures. So we've added some functions there, and we have an option to redo part features, guys. So if you ever get the itchy trigger finger like I do and you go a little too far back, and you're like, oh no, right? We're going to be able to redo that. To complete this part, we need to cut and pattern a sketch. However, the sketch and the part color are similar. Changing these color settings has always been available, but in SolidWorks 2021, a column of representative colors is shown, making it easy to find the item you want to change. Let's use this green color, make the sketches more visible. Also new in SolidWorks 2021 is the ability to collapse the command manager, allowing you to reclaim as much screen real estate as possible. Moving the quick access tools to the command manager further reduces extraneous icons and helps you focus on your design. All tools using the tabs across the screen are available. But a faster way to work is to use the S key, as we all know. However, it doesn't yet have a pattern command that we need. No problem, we need to add this in. We can drag and drop that, but how would we find it? The search option is a convenient way to locate any functions that you're looking for within the SolidWorks interface. Now that we've set up the shortcut bar, finishing our design is trivial. Notice how just drag and dropping these information gives us what we need. Finishing our design is a simple right click. We have access to certain functions that we use readily in SolidWorks. And as I mentioned earlier, our undo option, again available, but when we get that itchy trigger finger and we go a little too far back, we now have the function to redo. Not everything can be redone, but most of our functions and tool sets that we use has the option to go forward and redo. This means that if you accidentally undo, you won't have to spend extra time. Small things, guys, but I think that, again, things that we run into quite a bit. So again, just to kind of discuss, we took a look at that access bar. We had the command manager. We're able to search now on our tools. We're going to look at some improvements now for some of our part information. And we'll start off actually within some sheet metal. Sheet metal is a big part of what our client base does. no matter what you guys make, usually there's a shroud or an enclosure or some sheet metal component to it. So it's important. So we're going to go ahead and discuss, like I mentioned, some of those options with the edge flange, and really just kind of dig down into some of the new things that we'll see here. When working with sheet metal parts, we've long been able to create an edge flange on curved edges. So you can see on these two examples, we have two flanges that, like I said, you could probably create those previous to this release. It just might take 2 or 3 steps. New in SOLIDWORKS 2021, edge flanges can be created on curved edges originating from non-planar faces such as those in this bend area. The preview shows how the edge flange can be created all the way around the part. Familiar edge flange customization tools are available to help define the edge flange, such as length, angle, dimensioning methods, and flange positions. The new edge flange looks great and is sure to provide more stiffness to the angle bracket. Of course, the edge flange can be flattened. Ready to detail? And with a simple right-click, export to DXF for fabrication. This edge flange is great for structural integrity, but it's also useful for enclosures and guarding, such as this cover. The edge flange on the far side needs to protect the components of the navigational control unit. Fully editing capabilities so we can change the direction of the flange as well as the angle to wrap around the internal components and keep them safe. New edge flange capability along nonlinear edges extends the robust sheet metal capabilities of SOLIDWORKS 2021. .3MF files are being readily utilized in all of our additive manufacturing. This LED light assembly contains parts for various colors, applied textures, and transparency, and needs to be 3D printed. In SOLIDWORKS 21, support for exporting and importing of 3MF files gets even better. We could do this previous, it just gets better. Now we can add color, textures, transparency, and support on export. The information is stored in this 3MF file to be used in further manufacturing processes. When opening the 3MF file, you now support more appearances. Per facet and per vertex coloring, as well as textures and transparency, can now be visualized when importing 3MF. Additive manufacturing continues to rise in capability and popularity, and SOLIDWORKS continues to embrace this technology. Each one of these graphics bodies you can see is a simple right click. We get our triad, and we can kind of further delve into these, because understanding, for those of you that haven't dealt with this, this is a graphics body. It doesn't really have all that detailed information we're used to. So I would look at this more like a step file or something. You know, it's much better than a step file, but it's more like that kind of geometry that we're dealing with. So again, for those of you that haven't got into this, this is where we're heading. Please look into this and get yourself up to speed on how a 3MF file could possibly change the way you're doing some of your workflows. When working in the Weldment environment, it is common to use various sizes of Weldment members. The horizontal tubes in this weld frame are 2x2 square tubes, and the vertical tubes are 3x2. The Weldment Trim Extend tool is used to trim the tubes to each other. Of course, we have all of our options there for handling that, but that's not what's new. This would be the effect that we would get prior to 2021. In SOLIDWORKS 2021, there's a new option for miter trims. The flush miter does just that. It trims the tube so they meet flush. What a great idea, right? I can't wait to use this, whether I'm working with companies or doing trim at home. I think that's going to be a really neat option to add for our Weldment environments. Weldment's going to need to be painted, so let's edit the appearance and choose a color. We have a wide variety of colors to choose from our color palette. Oftentimes we need to choose a color that's specifically dictated by our customer, right? So here's a case where we have a website open. It's the Square Robot website. We can learn about their products and initiatives, of course, but really what we want to gain out of this is capturing their color. Maybe we want to impress them with a quote, try to get their business, whatever it may be. We now have the capability in SolidWorks 2021 to simply go over, select that color, and drag and drop it onto our models. For the vertical members, we went ahead and chose a different color. All this is mirrored or patterned, so you can see that that information will propagate as it would prior to 2021. It works on any image displayed on your screen, everybody. Includes colors from popular paint vendors and color system websites. Pretty neat little tool there. The next one we're going to talk about is custom properties. Custom properties are becoming a little bit more important because, as well, we want more out of our model. We want cost. We want estimates. Custom properties are a great way to store this information. Documents, descriptions, creation date, material. They can all be leveraged to automatically populate title blocks, bills of material, and PDM, as we know. Sometimes it's necessary to calculate the result and define a custom property. Now in SolidWorks 2021, equations are supported in custom properties. Choose equation as your property type, and you'll have access to all our global variables, some math functions, and other properties. For this Weldment, we want to go ahead and get an estimated cost off this. So we're going to create an equation that multiplies the mass of the part by a value which gives us 428. Equations can be used in cut list properties as well. This plate in the cut list is used 4 times. And we would like to know the total length of all the plates together. Again, define the property name, choose equation as the property type, and for this calculation we want to multiply the quantity of plates by the length to give us a value of 20.52. So that is our new options within the parts and weldments. Again, for me, I think what we saw here in the miter area is extremely helpful. I think a lot of people are trying to do these types of cuts, and again, we're just meeting the requirement with what manufacturing is providing us these days. Right? We're able to do fancier things. We have crazier machines out there. So SolidWorks, we have to keep up to date, and I think that these are going to do it for us. It's a really, really great tool there. So those edge flanges, color pickers, the 3MF file, the equations, don't forget those, right? That's a huge thing because we're always trying to grab something out of us. Our bosses, our managers, our customers, our supply chain, they want more. So we can build some of that, automation in here. The weldments with the trims and the miter joints, awesome. And then transferring part materials, right? So good stuff in part. I hope you found it as excited as I am. So now let's go ahead and take a look at assemblies. Now assemblies, you can imagine that the focus, as always or as usually, is in the speed at which we can access our information and do our jobs. And nothing's really changed here. As you look through this list, we have some little small things like slot mates are a little bit more automated, but the majority of the things we're going to start to see revolve around performance, lightweight components, that kind of thing, evaluating what's wrong so that we can solve the issue and get this thing working better. So I think that's what you'll get into this.
Rob, I think we lost you on audio, buddy.
Test.
I think we got you back.
Hello?
There we go. We lost you on audio for a second. You're good now. Rob, I think we lost you again on audio.
What the heck is going on here? Sorry. All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue on here. We're going to look at a previous created mate that we had in this assembly. And typically, if we were to change a mate or flip the direction that that mate is to be calculated in, right, we would expect that quite a bit of things would typically fail on us. So choosing no in this case oftentimes means that we have an overdefined case in our assembly, and that's going to require some additional work on our side. Choosing yes, however, would avoid this issue and instead flips the other affected mate and making the task simple. Now, there's a lot of calculating that goes into that, right? We have a few things that we have to adjust. SOLIDWORKS 2021, there's a new system option under Assemblies to choose how to always select one of these choices and retain that prompt. So when we're flipping these mates over from one direction to the other, again, there's a lot of things that can go on there. So we're going to go ahead and we give it an option to you guys so that you can get into the system options and really define how this typically adjusts those flip mates. Sometimes it could save you some time, especially if you do a lot of flipping fasteners, because things like that change. So keep that in mind. The default flip alignment for this is, your option. When creating mates in slots, which we sometimes do, in SOLIDWORKS 2021, you can now choose the default type and the position. In this example, center of the slot has been selected as the default choice. Likewise, there is now the option to lock rotation of slot mates similar to concentric mates. The default slot mate location is a new document setting found under mates. This eliminates the need to regularly change the location type when adding new slot mates to your designs, saving you a little bit of extra time and maybe possibly preventing you from accidentally choosing the wrong constraint. SOLIDWORKS has always offered the flexibility to change the configuration of each component within an instance of a pattern. However, sometimes you may want to just change all the components to reference the original instance. This is time consuming. In SOLIDWORKS 2021, a new option to synchronize the configurations of all component instances created by the pattern is now available. This new option also helps from inadvertently changing the configuration of any of these components from the quick menu dropdown. And by locking this option within the component properties dialog. This ensures as you make any configuration changes to the seed, those changes will be propagated automatically and predictably. Finally, interference detection is a powerful tool to quickly find issues within your designs. SOLIDWORKS 2021 now offers the option to save these interferences out to a spreadsheet through the Save Results button. You even have the choice to capture a screenshot of each interference so that they can be shared and reviewed by others in your organization. This offers a new collaborative way to review interferences in design and determine if they are intentional due to fit conditions or not. I think some of these tools really fall into where we're going with some of the model-based definition information. We're trying to, really tighten up our workflows. Here's a case where we can now communicate very easily downstream or upstream, the issues that we found while doing our job. So again, I think this is a little bit of a change to your design cycle and how you work. So I challenge you, think about how you could utilize and leverage exporting your interferences to an Excel sheet where you can bring that up in a design review meeting, because that may entail some other people. All right. So we're going to get into assemblies now. And you can see here we have a fairly large assembly that normally does take quite a bit of time to open. It's a 2,200 part assembly. In this case, it took 21 seconds to open. Not too bad, right? None of this is run on, a flux capacitor of 1.21 gigawatts. These are just machines that we have access to these days. So you can see there's a little bit of speed up time there. To improve working with lightweight components, there is a new, more streamlined approach to accessing assembly and feature information. Simply expand a component from the feature tree, and you can dynamically load these components in place. This prevents unnecessary loading of large assemblies, but allows you quicker access. This is another big one. What good is using these simplified information if changing over from one to the other takes forever? Well, in SolidWorks 2021, we've addressed that as well. SolidWorks configurations now load much faster, so switching between the created configuration and others is significantly faster. The Performance Eval tool within SolidWorks has always been an invaluable resource to give insight into areas of a design that may cause performance degradation. I hope you guys are using performance evaluation. For those of you that aren't, please do. We've now added in a really neat tool. New in SolidWorks 2021 is the capability to report circular references from within the assembly. In this case, two holes on two separate parts have been found to refer to one another. You can use this information to further investigate the design and determine how these holes are referencing one another to fix these issues. In this scenario, one of the components listed in the report contains a hole wizard feature, where its location sketches center points that are referring to edges of a hole that is adjacent to the part located concentrically behind them. This is a common top-down design practice to ensure the holes always remain aligned together. However, investigation into our second component there's also a hole wizard feature, and it appears that the center points have been referred to the same edges from the previous part. Once we have resolved our issues from the circular reference, we're going to jump into defeaturing the assembly. Now this is not new per se, all right? We were able to do silhouette defeature in 2019. However, what is new is the capability to go in here. I'm going to add this group. And you'll see that we always have a side-by-side view so we can see exactly what's going on when we're creating this simplified representation, right? We're just selecting the faces, bodies, and edges, and then of course getting that preview on the right. This ensures that we capture the right amount of detail that we're looking for. The methods you can use to simplify your geometry range from something as simple as a bounded box to cylindrical representations of the components to something more complex like a polygon or tight fit model. You decide how much information is propagated to that simplified reps. Some of these components in your subassembly are critical to show that's the idea behind a simplified rep. We move that information to the top level and omit information that's just slowing down the machine. What's new in SolidWorks 2021 Silhouette Defeature is the ability to save the simplified rep as a configuration within the same assembly from which it was created. This eliminates the need to manage a separate file that contains the simplified model. You may still want to use other methods when creating silhouette defeature to remove proprietary information and share this outside of your organization. When using defeatured models with higher level assemblies, it's now as simple as right-clicking on our component and choosing the defeatured version. Defeatured assemblies as configurations provide a way to both simplify complex assembly visually and also add a performance boost in cases where all detail of the individual components isn't necessary. With these new performance enhancements in SOLIDWORKS 2021, you'll be able to work faster and more efficiently with large and more complex designs. So again, I know a lot of you on this call are having issues with your large assemblies, and I would hope that you would take a look at this. We're going to continue with graphics information. Graphics performance introduced in 2019 changed how graphics was handled by SOLIDWORKS, right? This has always been something we've looked at. We added in this enhanced graphics performance option. This may be new to you, but that's not necessarily new in 2021. That was new in 19. What is new in 2021 is the option that this is actually turned on by default. So this is not a setting we would have to instruct you guys in the past. So just know that enhanced graphics performance is now by default turned on. Let's take a look at what this thing does. So to see the difference, we will compare the setting enabled to it disabled side by side, running a macro that performs 500 mouse rotations for consistency. It's clear the graphics on performance is significantly faster on the left, but the numbers tell the real story. These actions took only 7.94 seconds and ran an average of 63 frames per second with graphics performance enabled. Meanwhile, the setting disabled took 161 seconds and an average of only 3 frames per second. That is not even in the same ballpark. So if you're not running this, you need to be running this, right? So double check that, everybody. Make sure that if you're having any sorts of issues internally, graphics related, make sure your users and your team are enabling this. In 2021, it will be enabled by itself, but remember, prior to this, until you upgrade, that's going to need to be addressed. All right. That was a big one, like I said. The first option we're going to look at here is looking at hidden lines removed and hidden lines visible. And again, keep in mind when we have hidden lines, this is, again, it's a complex thing because we're having to calculate out what we're not seeing, right? It's not just what we're seeing that is important. It's what we're not seeing that is also going to have to be addressed here. So again, when we get into these hidden lines, which is a pretty intense environment for us, we see that some of this performance is going to be increased. All right. We also have a second option that was included here, which is, it gets a little more detailed, a little bit more nerdy. Occlusion calling technology it's referred to as. So again, this is not something we necessarily run into, but when you start getting into silhouettes and a secluded type of geometry, again, this is assembly and instructional information that we're trying to capture out of our model. Maybe it's internal, right? This is not something we send with the box. Maybe this is just tells internally how to assemble this, how to maintain our product. So these types of views are getting more important, but they also inherently have lots of hidden lines and they're fancy. So we've got some tools, and if you're not using those, again, I would encourage you to go back, make sure that your enhanced graphics performance is enabled, and hopefully that will get you running. And if it's still giving you issues, give 2021 a try. All right, we're going to continue on here now into our drawings environment. Now drawings, this is where the rubber meets the road. We still know that. I still know that. We here at TPM still know that. This is what good is a real cool model if I can't document the design and get it manufactured. So all this information we talked about is just it's adding detail, it's adding information to our assemblies. So same thing's going to happen here in our drawings, right? There's a lot more information to manage. So performance, again, has been addressed. We'll take a look at some detail mode enhancements. Now, detail mode isn't new, but we have some enhancements to it. If you're not familiar with detail mode, it came out last year before. It was a great option for us to get into a drawing and start working without having it calculate. We have some options for adding relations in drawings now. So you'll see an interface much like we see in the sketch environment. There's just some little options here with the transparent dimension preview. You know, when you have a lot of dimensions on top of one another, it was hard to kind of understand where we were at. So now we can see they've given us a transparent option. And if we have any European customers or people that are here in the U.S. that are dealing with Europe, we have some VDA inspection balloons that is kind of important for the European industries. So when working with large assembly drawings, view manipulation is vital to the good user experience. Over the years, Solidworks has worked hard to optimize view manipulations on the screen. Detail mode was introduced in 2020 to allow users to open massive assemblies in seconds and for assemblies. The enhanced graphics performance option was implemented to take advantage of high-end graphics cards by moving the graphics burden to the card. For SolidWorks 2021, the graphics mode has been extended to the drawing environment. Yay. Okay, so let's take a look at what that does. On the left, of course, we have 2020. On the right, we have 2021. And in the side-by-side comparison, the same 5-sheet drawing is open. And we're going to start by panning and just kind of cruising around on this thing. Oh, what happened here? Let me catch up. Oh my God. Sorry. Huh. Shoot. Son of a gun. My video's not playing. I apologize. I'm going to have to explain this one through, but so again, we have the enhanced graphics option that took place, and it's now ported over to the drawing environment. It's just a speedier option, right? You saw it in the assembly work. The drawing environment performs the same. I hate this video isn't playing for us, but it does show a significant increase in performance. Same thing with zooming and panning. All that information is just faster with that enhanced mode turned on. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about here is kind of where, again, the rubber meets the road is detailing environment. But aside from performance, let's talk about how we're actually going to get into, oh, son of a gun. Well, my little videos seem to have stopped working. There we go, I think. Okay. Nope. Uh-oh, having a meltdown. Stand by, everybody. Okay. I don't know what happened. It seems to be working now. I just have to reboot. You know how it goes sometimes. So there's the zooming and panning I mentioned to you. You can see it's, hopefully you're seeing it's very fluid, moving balloons, you know, lots of intense information. It's a pretty fluid movement now, and it wasn't in the past. It usually did take us a little bit of jagged motion, you know. All right, let's go ahead and zoom in on some of these detailing mode enhancements for notes. So detailing mode, like I said, it came out earlier, but now what we can do is we have the option to support, while in detailing mode, editing existing annotations such as this set of notes right here. That was not available. We could get into the drawing, but we couldn't edit these. Existing notes can be edited, add or removed, and you have full access to all of the annotation editing tools. Balloons can be operated on. And we adjust our notes. Now let's take a look at the front view of this drawing. You can see we have a broken view with foreshortened dimensions to allow a more concise display. Not new there, right? We've been able to do that. However, the top view does not have the broken views. So now detailing mode supports broken views, crop views, and even detail views. Similar to the front view, let's break the top in 3 places. All the same styles are available, as well as the gap between the lines. Ordinate dimensions are also supported within the detail mode. We can now add additional items to existing ordinate dimensions, such as these edges and center lines. Detail views can now be created in the same manner as well. Just like it's fully resolved, draw a detail circle, choose a sketch profile, and place the view. When detailing drawings, it's common to define whole information. Now in SOLIDWORKS 2021, detailing mode supports whole callouts and foreshortened dimensions when required. Existing dimensions now have full editing capabilities. For instance, the tolerance on this dimension between the holes is an important function for the part. All dimension properties are now available, including tolerance and precision. The location of the first hole is not properly defined by the center of the hole. All the callouts on every tab of our property manager are now available. So we can define arc conditions and dimension the extension line to wherever it's required on that particular hole. So you can see these enhancements in 2021 extend the capability of our detailing mode to fully detail drawings in record time. VDA, this is what I mentioned, kind of is not for everybody, right? But it's for somebody. So VDA balloons are frequently used in German automotive industry. So again, this is, you could be part of the supply chain that just has to deal with this. It's now included. A new leader type is available for VDA balloons, and it allows you to, tag inspection points per VDA requirements. We can position these. They rotate just as any other type of, symbols that we use. And they can, again, just to reiterate, they can be used directly by SOLIDWORKS inspection. The last thing we have to add here is actually adding in sketch geometry, or working with sketch geometry, adding relations to it within the drawing environment. So this is kind of neat, right? We're highlighting a couple sets of entities here, and we're getting more of an interface like we would be used to within the sketch environment. So this pop-up's going to be there. Not everything's in it, but a lot of good stuff is in it, so I encourage you to check that out. Improvements to the drawing environment. These are, among some of our most popular requirements or requests from the user base. So again, SOLIDWORKS really did a good job of taking our input, or your input, I should say, and incorporating it into this upcoming release. Nothing's changed. They've been doing that since day one. Okay. And we're down to EDrawings. So EDrawings. Now EDrawings, this is a tool to watch out for because it was always neat and it was always great for communicating. but we're starting to really beef this up to the point where, you know, there's almost nothing we can't do with an EDrawings file. EDrawings, of course, can take the place of a PDF. It can also take the place of drawings, all right? So when you look at model-based definition in that particular workflow, EDrawings is a critical linchpin in making that work, in getting into manufacturing. So without a robust EDrawings tool, many of the things that we talk about of where we're going as an industry, we wouldn't be able to achieve it. EDrawings is going to make it happen. So in 2021, you can now view custom and configuration specific properties right inside the EDrawings Viewer. That's a big one, right? We want to communicate to upstream and downstream departments. And again, we all have different information that we need out of this EDrawings file. So here we have the capability to communicate whatever is required to whoever needs it, right? Not everyone needs to understand Finish, but some do. Very neat tool, as well as the configurations. Commands like measure have been significantly improved. We always had measure, but now we can measure a lot of stuff. Finding the center-to-center distance of two circular and cylindrical objects has always been available, but now you can choose to view minimum and maximum distances. We can also measure normal distance between faces and cylinders. So again, just the selection set of how we measure has changed. Sharing 3D designs is better than ever. We do not need a requirement to install EDrawings. Simply save as a web HTML, and this can be viewed in any internet browser. Pretty cool. This allows the recipient to pan, rotate, and zoom, as well as view configurations, exploded states, measure, and even pull the bodies around just so you can get into those little nooks and crannies to get different section information or different, interrogate the model however you need to. So this is a big thing, right? Like I said, if you start to go model-based definition, or you start to go to some of these things we're talking about, this becomes an integral part of your process. This tool is making it happen. Okay, so I think that actually about wraps up the what's new for 2021. I will open it up for some questions. All right, we have, only question I got here actually revolves around model-based definition. How is EDrawings used? So EDrawings, for those of you not familiar with model-based definition, it changed, right? We no longer really detail out our drawings in the drawing environment. So we're saving this information to an EDrawings file instead. Now, the idea there is that EDrawings file becomes the document almost, right? That becomes our drawing file that people manufacture from, quality control. So it requires a further conversation, but the EDrawings is an important thing to look at. And again, this is something we help you guys develop. It's not something that's out there already. So you probably do need a little bit of help to get this incorporated. Silhouette defeature, yep, you can use silhouette defeature in sub-assemblies and top level. Let's see. All right.
You had two more questions come in chat, Rob. First one is how do you show configurations in EDrawings?
Oh, so there is that, you saw that tab that was in there? That's what you're going to want to look for. It was just in the lower right. I don't have it available, but look for it. It's in the lower right, and it had all that information built into it.
The next question was, are there any more lighter line weights to use when detailing a part?
Lighter line weights when detailing a part? I guess I'd have to have to ask some further questions on that one, what we were attempting to do.
I think it's part of the custom document property templates. You can customize it.
Thank you, Robbie. Anything else? I know that this is just an absolute ton of information between more and, getting you up to speed on 3 previous releases. Again, what we're showing today, or what I've just showed anyways, this is not all that's in there, right? These are just some kind of highlights that we pulled out that affect the majority of our client base. So again, look at the What's New document. There's a lot more that went in here that might pertain to exactly what you do day to day. But these are kind of the higher level ones that affect mostly, most of our client base. So every year it's like that. Every year there's hundreds of new things, and we owe it to ourselves to take a look at that What's New document. It pops up, but a lot of us just say, show me later. Well, it's later.